Hi guys, we are talking about sensory diets and how awesome they can be for autistic children. Make sure you stick around to the end because I give you some ideas for sensory diet strategies for the classrooms. I'm Michelle Newby and I'm from Stepping Up.
Hi guys, we are here today to talk about sensory diets and how fantastic they can be for autistic children. So, here at Stepping Stones Therapy for Children, we have seen literally hundreds of autistic children across the years, and most of those children have had quite significant and unique sensory challenges. They are literally experiencing the sensory world very differently to other children. What we know from the research is that when there are sensory differences, there is also an impact on occupational performance. So kids with sensory differences will have challenges with things like school participation, with sleep, with play, and with eating. And so this is kind of the work that we do as occupational therapists. So it's important for us to be aware of a child's sensory challenges and to be able to meet those needs where we can so that we can help them to thrive and live their best lives. So, to begin with, it's really important to do a comprehensive assessment of a child's sensory performance. So, and you can do that. There's lots of questionnaires out there. So, norm reference questionnaires like the sensory processing measure or the sensory profile. They're very valid and very reliable measures that you can use. But what I also encourage therapists to do is do a deep dive with that child's parent or with that child's teacher to really get a good understanding of their sensory environments and their performance within the different sensory environments, because that will give you a lot of information as well. What you need to do when you've done a really good assessment is then really pull it apart and think about all of the different sensory areas that might be challenging for that child and how they're actually responding to that sensation. Once you've got that figured out, and with that, what you're also doing is you're pulling out the key environments that that child is struggling with. So it might be that at home, they're performing really well, and actually there's not many sensory challenges that the child is experiencing in that particular environment. But at school, which can be a much more overwhelming and stimulating environment, we're seeing more kind of challenges because of the different sensory environments. So we then look at those environments that are more tricky for the child, and we design like individualized sensory strategies that will support that child's unique sensory needs. So what I have seen in the past is a lot of kind of cookie cutter sensory diets. So yes, just a series of activities that we're giving out to all the children to help them all to be calm and regulated. But what we've found is that that's actually not an effective way of really supporting these children. What you need to do is really clearly understand what that child's sensory challenges are in that particular environment. So, for example, in the classroom, it might be that the child is quite visually sensitive to the fluorescent lights that are in the classroom, and so that's really impacting on their ability to sort of stay calm and regulated and focus on what that teacher's saying. So, as a part of your sensory diet, what you might recommend is the child is wearing a bucket hat in class. So the bucket hat is going to block out that extraneous fluorescent light. Or it might be that the child is really, struggling to keep their body still, and they're really movement seeking in that classroom environment. And so what you might do is you might schedule in regular movement breaks for them. So, it might be that they have a job to get up and hand out the books, and it's scheduled into the routine, or that they take a backpack of some heavy books up to the office. So they're getting they're getting a movement break, they're getting some proprioception, so that they can then come back and be regulated for carpet time, where maybe they find it hard to keep their body still. So there is no cookie cutter approach to sensory diets. You really need to have a good understanding of what that child's sensory challenges are in that specific environment. And the other thing to think about is making sure that what you're recommending is realistic for the environment. So I have seen a lot of recommendations for school where the child needs to do a whole lot of yoga poses to sort of be calm and regulated. And if you can get the whole class involved in that, then I think that that's amazing, and what a beautiful thing for all the other children in that class. But if it's just that one individual child who's needing to do that, and there's not really the time or space within the schedule to do that, then it's probably not going to happen. So you need to be very realistic about what can happen in each environment. So yeah, be very, very clear, maybe sort of 2 or 3 or 4 specific sensory activities that you've trialed, maybe in clinic or you've trialed in the actual environment, and you've seen a meaningful change in that child's regulation and engagement. And so you're going to tailor those activities to the environments that are tricky. And you do need to be reviewing to make sure that the sensory diet is still working, and whether you need to tweak some things. So yeah, the key really is to take an individualized approach, take it into the environments in which the child is having difficulties, and to review and update that as you need. So I hope that this was useful. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned for more awesome content.